and rational. This is Apostle Perry's Corner.
All right. Good afternoon. It is now time for us to do Apostle Corner's podcast. I just want to let everybody know that you can view this if you download the app Podbeam and you look up Apostle Corner. That's one way you can view this. And the other way you can view it is on Spotify. And once again, it is Apostle Corner. Now on Spotify, it is only the verbal and YouTube as well. On Spotify, you're only going to hear the voice. On YouTube and Podbeam, you will actually see the live video. So I want to talk today. I'm going to move away from my normal conversation. This is going to be strictly, there's not going to be any scriptures talked about in this. This is going to be based on some information that I felt was important as I looked at the millennials as they're moving and grooving in this time factor, as we are setting the pace for the Gen Xers to come behind. I want to talk today quickly and briefly about 8 tips from the millennials entering into leadership. Now, these 8 tips that I'm talking about can be utilized whether you're talking about leadership in the church or whether you're talking about leadership in the secular world. But I want to talk to you today about 8 tips for millennials entering into leadership. One thing I found in doing my research, it says by 2025, millennials will be made up of 75% of the global workforce. In addition to soon becoming this majority, millennials are also working their way up to comprise a large portion of management and leadership positions. You need to hear that. They're the millennials, those between the 18 and 35 age group. There are some young millennials that are working their way up the corporate ladder. They're working their way up organizational ladders, and they're putting themselves in management and leadership position. According to a global generational study by Ernst and Young, 62% of millennials say they manage the work of others. Hear me now, 62% of the millennials say they manage work of others, compared to 65% of Gen Xers and 46% of baby boomers. A percentage that will only increase as the baby boomer enter retirement age. All baby boomers, according to this, by 2030, will be 65 years or older. So the baby boomers are now transitioning out of the workplace. The millennials are now transitioning into the workplace and now becoming the more of the leaders of the workplace, while the Gen Xers are standing at the door waiting to come in next. So if that is the case, and I'm excited about this, I'm excited to see the millennials entering into the workspace. I was talking with my wife on this morning, and we were talking about how as we was looking at our generation, the older generation, as they are now transitioning out, and the ones who left the legacy for us, the ones who raised us, they're transitioning out of not only retirement, but they're transitioning out of life. Now we, as the baby boomers, are now taking the place of now the patriarchs and the matriarchs of our families. And behind us are the millennials who are looking at us now as we looked at our grandmothers and our grandfathers. Then we are moving into that space. And now the Gen Xers are now in a place where the millennials used to be. Like I said, this is one of those unusual times where you have all of the generations all together. And now as the older ones are moving out, the baby boomers are moving into now what is considered the matriarch and patriarchs of the families. The millennials are now moving into the space that were once occupied by the baby boomers, and the Gen Xers are standing at the door, biting at the bit for their spot in this leadership. So the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because while my generation has a lot of years of leadership experience under our belt, the newcomers are fresh to this leadership journey. Those millennials, they're fresh to this leadership journey. There's a lot that has to be learned, and hopefully the following list will serve as a starting point for the millennials as they navigate what it takes to be a leader worth following. It's okay. It's not just good to be a leader. You have to be a leader worth following. And one of the things I've learned as a leader, not only as I was a leader, as I'm a leader in the church, but as I was a leader in the secular world, one thing I understood very succinctly is this: you cannot be a great leader if you have not been a great follower. You have to be a great follower and in turn to be a great leader, because as a great follower following a great leader, you end up elevating to a greater level. If you have a leader that is not great, and he's never been a good follower, then he's not going to be able to rise you to the level that you need to be. So number one thing, so here's these 8 nuggets of wisdom. I hope and I pray rather that these will be excellent for you. Number one, know what it means to be a leader. Know what it means to be a leader. As leadership expert John Maxwell said, and he's one of the guys that I read intensely, he said this: leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Yeah, I'm the boss. Yeah, I can make people, if I'm the boss, I can make people do things. But think about this: how much greater it is as a leader to influence people rather than make people. When I influence people, they're more in tune to do the things that they need to do by my influence. And my influence is by my own work ethics, my own way of doing things. They see this, and they're influenced by what they see in me that encourages them to do what they need to do. As a leader, you have the greatest amount of influence compared to those who report to you. How can you leverage that influence in addition to your talents to help your team members do their job better? Check in with your team members and as often as you can and ask this question: how can I help you? When I used to do my evaluations of my people that I was in charge of, and I've been in charge of a whole lot of people, both Marines and civilians, in my civilian port as well as in my military life as well. One of the things that I always would do when I was doing their evaluation, their performance appraisals, I would always ask them at the end, what can I do to help you become better? What can I do to help you do what you need to do? What do you need from me in order for you to do your job at a higher level? And that's what a good leader does. That's what influence does. You ask them, as a leader, you have to check in with them and you say, how can I help? What can I do to help you become a better person? Strive to be a servant leader. And that's one of the most important things. And I know a lot of people don't like that term, servant leader. But you need to strive to be a servant leader and understand that your leadership isn't all about you. I have been under so many leaders who it was all about them. It had to be done their way. It was all about them. Everything was about them. There was never any teamwork. There was never any together. Everyone achieves much work. It was never about that. It was always about them. So as a servant leader, you have to understand it is not all about you. I am the pastor of the Sanctuary Church. And even though I am the pastor, I'm an apostle, even though I have those positions, it is not about me. It is all about him. So we have to understand that even if you're in a leadership position, it is never about you. It is always about the organization success that you're being a part of that success. Number 2, be intentional about developing your soft skills. Or what am I talking about? Growing as a leader is a lifelong journey, and that is especially true when growing your soft skills. Emotional intelligence, empathy, effective communication, and the ability to problem solve are just a few of what we're talking about when we talk about soft skills, because those words can be a little confusing because a lot of people don't use those and they don't know what they mean when they say, what are you talking about soft skills? Hard skills are me doing my job. Soft skills is how is my emotional intelligence as I'm performing this? What is my empathy as I'm performing my job? What is my effective communication as I am doing my job? And what is my ability to solve problems? And what can and this stuff does not come overnight, but they are key to being the kind of leader others will follow. I'm telling you, this is key. You got to have some kind of emotional intelligence. You got to have some kind of empathy with the people you're working with. You got to be an effective communicator. You got to be an effective communicator. You can't just say things and expect people to really catch what it is until they get to know you and your spirit and your heart. You need to effectively communicate what it is as a leader you want them to accomplish. If I want you to pick up a 5-pound bag from over here, and I want you to put the 5-pound bag over there, but I want to put it in a specific way, I need to say, I need you to go over here, pick up the 5-pound bag. Now, I don't care how you pick it up. Well, yes, I do, because I want you to pick it up safely. So I need to make sure that when you pick it up, if you're picking it up with your hands, that you're using your knees and not your back. And I want you to make sure you pick it up effectively and correctly so there's no injury to you as you move it to the place in which I told you to. Once you get it there, I need to communicate to you where I want it and how I want it. Then I need to also tell you how to lay it down safely, once again, so that you don't hurt your back. So I need to tell you how to lean down without bend down in that situation. So you need to do that if you want to be the kind of leader that others will follow. You got to have self-assurance that your soft skills in and of yourself. You got to have the assurance of the soft skills. That is, it is critical in developing your interpersonal skills. Be aware of yourself and how you interact with others. We got to take a check on how we interact with others. I had to learn this the hard way. Because when I got out of the Marine Corps and I started working as a civilian, I was still Marine Corps. So working with Marines when I was managing the gym and I would have FAPs, that was an easy task. I'm working with Marines. I'm a Marine. I talk to them on their language. But when they stopped using FAPs, which is, people that would come from other units and they would let them be up there for 6 months or whatever. When the FAPs started going away and I started hiring civilians, I learned that I could not talk to civilians or communicate with them the same way I did Marines. So I had to learn my own interpersonal skills. I had to learn how I talk to others. I had to learn how to interact with others. And I had to set up feedback loops to gain honest critique from those above and below to learn my blind spots. If you want to go the extra mile, get a coach who can help you grow your weak areas. I had other mentor leaders who are above me or even are parallel with me that I went to. Here's something that as a leader that you do. If you're a leader over people, and I'm talking about if you're a leader and you have, you're a manager, supervisor, whatever. If you're a supervisor, manager over people, when you're doing evaluation, I do my evaluation 3 ways. I told them, first I would tell them how good they was, and how much I appreciate the work they did. I would tell them what they were doing, what they didn't do correctly, and then I would tell them how they could be better. And then I would ask them, not only did I ask them, how can I help you? What can I do for you? I asked them, what do you think about me as your leader? I allowed them to get that feedback. Now, some people are going to say some crazy stuff, and you got to be prepared for that. You can't be offended if you ask them to rate you as a leader. And some people won't do it in person, so you may even give them a letter, a form, and have them fill it out, no name, and put it in your box so that you don't know who it's from. And remind, and don't get, if you got thin skin, then leadership is probably not a good place for you, because if you truly want to know how you're doing, you need to check in with the people that you're leading. You need to embrace failure. This is one that hurts people the most. We talked about it a little last night when somebody, what happens when you're afraid to fail? You're going to have failure. As a new leader, it can be tough to admit when you fail short on a project or goal. Molly Fetcher explained it, in order to be a fearless leader, to be fearless as a leader, she said, you have to have the courage to take ownership in the moments when you do something wrong. That was not even, that's one of the things that in the military was not prevalent. If the staff sergeant made a fault, it was somebody else's fault, not the staff sergeant's fault. But as a leader, you got to own up to your mistakes. Hey, look, guys, look, ladies and gentlemen, hey, I was wrong on that. As a pastor, I don't have a problem saying, hey, look, I missed the boat on that one. We should have did X, Y, Z. And what does that do? That increases your credibility with the people that you lead, because they now know that they don't have to worry about you dropping things on them to look better on the people that are higher up. So you need to understand that without a healthy relationship with failure, you'll have a hazardous time taking risks to lead to innovation and propelling your organization forward. You got to be able to own up to your mistakes. We all make mistakes. Own up to it. They know you made a mistake. It's not a secret. They know it was your fault. Hey, look, guys, I blew that one. Let's look at, what do you think we could do better the next time? Here you get the buy-in. Hey, I blew that one. What do you think we can do better the next time to make this work? All right. So number 4, as I run quickly, strive for clarity. Without clarity, your team is essentially operating in a fog. They won't know what actions to take to achieve the organizational mission, values, or goals. They'll have a hard time navigating change without a leader, as a leader, you should embrace. Teams need clarity from their leaders in 5 areas: purpose, priority, process, performance, and problem solving. Let me say that again. Teams, the people you manage, are going to need clarity from you in these 5 areas: purpose, priorities, process, performance, and problem solving. Figuring out the areas in which your team needs more clarity by creating a culture of openness by asking feedback from them and not closed-ended questions. How you doing? I mean, how was the project? Good or bad? Good. No, we did this project. Give me your insight on what you thought went right and what you thought went wrong, or what you thought we could do better. That's feedback. And don't think because somebody comes up with a better idea than you that you have to suppress their idea because you're the leader. What you're doing is you're hurting the organization as a whole when you do that. I have people lots of time to come to me as the pastor and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think about that? I never thought about it. I'm like, hey, let's go with it. It doesn't have to be my idea. It's an organizational structure. We work for the organization. The organization is the kingdom of God, or the organization is Popeyes. The organization is Pizza Hut. Wherever that organization is, that's the organizational structure that you work for. When you succeed, the organization as a whole succeeds. Number 5, seek diversity. If you want to be innovative, you need a lot of ideas that comes from having a lot of different perspectives, collaborating from a common goal. Seek insight from people who have a very different background from your own, and build a team that brings multiple perspectives and views to the table. Okay, that's a mouthful. That's a $50 word for a 25 cents meaning. What am I saying? What I'm saying is, like in our ministry, we have a multicultural ministry. In my ministry, we have from millennials all the way to Gen Xers. I take input from everybody. I have a team of diverse people that are helping me. Even with this podcast, the people that are helping me are not my age, but they have the wherewithal to know what to do. So it would be stupid of me to say, well, I don't want no young person trying to help me. I'm going to get a bunch of old people my age to help me. And they don't know nothing about social media. They don't know nothing about computers, because most people in my age are afraid of computers. They're afraid of social media. They're afraid to even get that. Some of them still got flip phones. And I don't even know if they still sell flip phones, but some of them, they're scared to get on the phone. They don't know how to text. They don't know how to do any of that stuff. I didn't know it at first. I learned, and I have continued to learn, because I want diversity, men and women. And let me help you out here. Men and women, not just men. There are men and women. I know we got this male thriving society, but women have great ideas, and we need that diversity in our midst. Number 6, delegate, but do not micromanage. That is the hardest thing for a leader to do, not to manage. You got to manage the two and feel like you're walking on a tightrope. Balancing the two, rather, feels like you're walking on a tightrope. New managers often struggle to let go of the tasks they were often in charge of, or expect others to approach the job in the same way. If you get promoted to another position on your job, and now there's someone in your position, your old position, you're over them, don't expect them to do it the way you want you would do it. Let them use their innovation, let them use their ingenuity, and let them do it so that it can be proud. Be mindful of this as you let go of responsibility to take on new ones. Fight the urge to hold on to tasks because you think it would be faster or easier if you did it. And that's one of the hardest things. Let me tell you, that was the hardest thing for me to do. Even right now, the hardest thing for me to do as a pastor is give people something and then want to take control of it. That's why if there's something going on, I used to go to everything. Now I don't go to a lot of things, because if I get there, I'm going to start looking at, well, that's not the way I would do it. Why are they doing it that way? And then there'd be a whole, hey, we need to, like this coming weekend, there's a task that's going on. I'm not going to even be present when the task is going, because I don't want to get in there and start micromanaging how to do it. Part of being a leader is challenging the people below you to grow in their skills. So we need to make sure that we're not micromanagers. Number 7, have a system of accountability in place. Millennials are the generation that wants flexible work from home options, but there's need to be structure in place to measure performance and productivity. Right now, there's a lot of people that are doing, they're working from home, but there has to be some measure to do that. You got to be able to know, okay, I'm working from home, so am I being more productive because I'm working from home, or am I less productive working at home? So if you've got a job that allows you to work from home, you got to work like that time and that space. You're in a building somewhere else. The problem with most people who do home work is they kind of scoff at it. You know, they don't get up and dress. They don't do what they normally do if they were going on to an in-building. But then their productive and their performance starts to dwindle. You have to work as hard doing that in order. So you got to be clear, positive explanation that are mutually agreed upon. So this is what Dr. Howard Cloud said about accountability. As you talk about accountability, this is what Dr. Clyde said, is that the instructions have to be clear, positive, expectations that are mutually agreed. So you and I got to talk about what it is I would need from you and how we expect to get it accomplished. Have some way of defining when these expectations will be met. I got to give you a deadline, some dates, some targets. Ask how are you going to inspect it. Asking how you're going to inspect it. I got to have some parameters. How am I going to know that you're accomplishing what I want you to do? I got to have some target things. And how are you going to communicate along the way so that there's no surprises? So I need to be in contact with you, in communication with you. I need to keep talking to you about as you go through the process. I don't mean I call you every day and go, did you do X, Y, Z? We have target goals. Hey, I'm reminding you next week we got to do X, Y, Z. Where are you at in that? And that helps me to be better as a leader, to understand that you're doing what you're supposed to. And lastly, as we run around the corner, number 8, be a student. Leadership and learning go hand in hand. So you won't go very far as a leader if you don't absorb as much information as you can about the subject. Anybody knows me will tell you I am an information absorber. I read, I research, I look because I want to know. That's how I can come to some kind of definitive understanding of who I am. I don't want to be CNN talking about what CNN said. I don't want to talk about what MSNBC said. I don't want to talk about what the president said. I don't want to talk about what the governor. I need to have an opinion. Hey, oh, help me. This is important. If you don't get nothing else of what I said all today, have an opinion that you have gathered, not somebody else's, but that opinion need to be fact-based, not speculation, but fact-based. You need to have a fact-based opinion that you can stand on and say, this is why I believe what I believe. And I can give you an example of why that's important. Right now, our country is in a turmoil as it relates to the coronavirus. There's 3 states, California, Texas, and Arizona. We're off the map. Those 3 states are off the map. And here's where we have a dilemma. You got a governor in Georgia that says, don't wear a mask. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. Then you have a governor in Oregon that says, you're going to wear a mask, and you're not going to have any family gatherings of over 10 people. You're not going to have any potlucks or anything like that. But she says you can go to church. The other one says church is closed. Here is, and what's that information based on? A lot of it is based on political position, not positive information. Oh, you need to hear me. Political position, not positive information. Make sure your information is correct. Just because you Google something doesn't mean it's correct. Research. Google is good and bad. It's good in the fact that as information, as we as an informational society, I can go in and I can grab information and I can glean. However, when we glean the information, we need to make sure that it is fact-based information. Why do I say that? Because there are a lot of people who go on, I done seen so many posts, Smokey died. That's just a reference, but it could be anybody. But the person been dead 5 years. They're posting it today like it's a reality. You got to make sure you're a composite of the books you read. Here you go. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to wrap this up right now. This is probably my last statement I'm going to say right here. Well, next to the last statement, I'm going to say right here. You are a composite of the books you read, the people you meet, the places you go. I'm gonna say that that was said by Stephen Franklin. He said that you are the one that put the book out. I can't remember what it is right now, but here he's a researcher and educator. You are the composite. In other words, you are the sum total of what you read, the people you meet, and the places you go. So you need to be a student of those around you. Learn all you can about the people so you can lead them the best of your ability. Pay attention to the actions of the leaders before you and around you to avoid the mistakes and gain wisdom in advance. So let me close with this. Andy Stanley said this: in leadership, success is succession. If someone's coming along behind me, it is not able to take what I have offered and build on it, then I have failed in my responsibility to the next generation. Say that again. If someone's coming along behind me is not able to take what I have offered and build on it, then I, as a leader, have failed my responsibility, not to them, but to the next generation. Leadership is an endless cycle that builds within each generation. Be a learner, be self-aware, be intentional about implementing what you've learned to your own leadership, be a mentor and a coach and share the wealth of your knowledge. In doing so, you'll be on your way to being a leader worth following. I pray that I hope this has been a blessing to you. And I'm telling you, please share this with people because I believe this is very important information that was shared about the 8 tips for millennials entering into leadership. So thank you for joining us. Once again, you can download the app Podbean and Apostles Corner, Spotify, Apostles Corner, on YouTube, Apostles Corner. It'll be live. You can either listen while you're driving or you can watch it live. Share this with somebody. Have a great day.